Hello and good evening. Welcome to the first of many videos that I will be doing on cookery. Tonight we are going to be doing the Hairy Bikers Chili Con Carne. Now in my house we like to add chorizo to as many dishes as we can, so we're going to add a little twist tonight. But I will be going through with you the ingredients that you need, the methods in preparing them, and also showing you how to cook them. So hopefully if you stay tuned, watch this, you will have success in the kitchen making yourself a really nice authentic chili con carne. So here we go then with the ingredients. As I've already mentioned, we do like chorizo, so we've got a Spanish spicy chorizo ring there. And moving just across, we've got 500 grams of mince there, 3 cloves of garlic. I'm going to be using garlic granules, makes it a bit easier. We have got 2 medium onions over there. We've got some herbs and some spices there. So we have got down there, we've got ground cumin, got some hot chili powder, got some ground coriander, and just for that little bit of extra paprika flavour, we've got some smoked paprika to add a little bit of flavour to it. At the back in the bag we've got some plain flour. We'll be adding that later. That thickens the sauce up for us nicely. And then we move down, we can see we've got 2 OXO cubes down there, which we're going to use to make some beef stock. Now we can add 150 ml of red wine to this sauce, but we're not going to tonight. We're going to add 150 ml extra stock, which is why I'm using the second stock cube. For 400 grams of chopped tomatoes, 400 gram tin of kidney beans, which are in the cupboard at the moment, 3 tablespoons of tomato puree, some dried oregano, some bay leaves, and some salt and pepper to taste. First thing we're going to do is put together all of our dry ingredients. So for this recipe we need 1 to 2 teaspoons of hot chili powder. Now this is to taste, so if you like your chili nice and hot, go for 2. If you're not so keen on a hot chili con carne, just go for the 1. So I'm using a ½ teaspoon measures, so there's half, 1, and I'm going to go 1½ in this. So there's our chili powder. We also need 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. So I like mine a little bit more cumin, so I'm going to go with 3. So that's half, 1, 1½ 2, 2½ 3. So 3 teaspoons of ground cumin. Need 2 teaspoons of ground coriander. So 1, that's half, that's 1, 1½ 2. There's our 2 teaspoons of ground coriander. I like to add a teaspoon of smoked paprika. So 1/2 and a whole teaspoon of paprika. If you don't like the smoked paprika, you can use the ordinary paprika. We'll put the garlic granules in there. We also need 2 tablespoons of flour. So I usually use plain flour. So over to the tablespoons measure, we're going to get 2 tablespoons of flour. So 1, 2, and that should be then all of our dry ingredients together. Okay, so for this next bit then we're going to prepare our chorizo. So if you bought it in a ring, it comes with a little bit of string and a couple of metal clips on it. Obviously you don't want to be eating those, so we need to cut those off, put those over to the side, they can go in the bin later. So I find the easiest way to chop chorizo. You need a good sharp knife, you need a decent chopping board. I cut the 2 sides off, so I'm left with 2 sausages and the semicircular bit. So when we cut the chorizo, we use the bridge method, so we hold it either side, place the knife in between the hands so that we put our fingers out the way. I'm going to slice this in half down the length. It's got 2 halves there. I'm going to do the same with the other piece just here. Remember, keep your fingers well away. A good sharp knife is what you need. And then lay it down on the flat side. I'm cutting mine into quarters. There we go. And then you can lay them side by side. Just chop them. Remember, nice even sized pieces. Move the cut pieces out of the way so you've got plenty of space. Remember, keep your hands like that, so when we're cutting against our fingernails and not cutting with our hands out of the way. So we're going to prepare the onion now. So we need to chop the top and the bottom off of our onion. Get rid of all of the brown and any green layers of the skin on the outside of the onion. So with all of the skin removed, got a flat edge, and place it down, and we're going to bridge again like that, and we're going to cut straight through our onion and then lay the two halves down so that it doesn't roll around. Bridge method again, and we're going to slice through our onion from top to bottom. So there we go, we've sliced it that way. Put it back into shape, hold it together, and then we're just going to slice side to side. So we're going to make little diced cubes. Keep your fingers out of the way. Okay, we're going to do the other one nice and quickly. So, onions are all prepared now. We're going to move on to the peppers. Now, there's several different ways you can prepare a pepper. The way that I choose to do it is I take the top off and the stalk, so just about as high as I can go, and I just cut straight through. And what that does, leaves you with that ring, which you can use, cuts the stalk off, and then leaves that bit inside. Now if I stand my pepper upright, I can cut straight down, and what it does is that leaves the seed pod in the middle of my pepper, and then that comes out as one solid piece, and then that can go in the recycling food waste, and then I'm left with seedless peppers. So I'm going to cut these into about 1 centimetre cubes, and they're going to go into a bowl over there. If you cut them up too small, what you'll end up with is they will turn to mush in your sauce. If you leave them a little bit bigger, it gives you a little bit more crunch once the dish has been cooked. And then this ring at the top, I just cut it, it gives us some big chunks. So again, yellow pepper this time. I tend not to use the green ones because they're not as sweet. Cut the top off, left with the stalk, that goes in the recycling, chop down. So, as I say, just chop those up into chunks. Do the same with that one. All the time watching, I'm keeping my fingers well out of the way. Get that into there. And then I'll come back to you when I've done the red one. So there we go, that's all of our ingredients prepared and ready. We've got our kidney beans, which have been rinsed and drained at the back in the colander. We've got the tomato puree, the tinned tomatoes. We've got our dry spices mix at the back there. We've got the mixed herbs, bay leaves, and in the jug at the back we've got our beef stock. In there we've got our beef mince at the front, salt and pepper. We've got our peppers, onions, and our chorizo. So we move over and we'll start to do the cooking. Now we're ready to start cooking. If you weren't using chorizo, I would suggest using a little bit of fry light or a light olive oil just to coat the pan, but if you're using a good non-stick pan, then you shouldn't need very much oil at all. So we're going to add the chorizo in. So what we're going to do is we're going to render the fat out of the chorizo, and we're going to use that fat to help us fry the onions and the mince. So when you're cooking your chili con carne, you do need a good deep-sided frying pan, because once you add all the ingredients and the stock, you're going to end up with quite a deep pan full of sauce. You could do this in a non-stick pot, which is again slightly deeper. You wouldn't be able to do this in a normal frying pan. You wouldn't be able to fit all of the ingredients in once it's cooked down. But as you can probably see, this is starting to sizzle, starting to release the paprika and the oils from here, and the chorizo is starting to crisp up. Now the chorizo is starting to release its oil, we're going to use that oil to fry our onions. If you were using fresh garlic, not the garlic granules like I've used, if you're using fresh garlic, now would be the time to add it to your dish. You can see all of the paprika, the oil coming out, turning those onions nice orange colour. Now what we want to do is we just soften these down. We don't want to fry them and get them all crispy. What we want to do is let them sweat down. So you cook these together for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll add the beef. Now it's been cooking for about 4 or 5 minutes. Those onions are starting to soften up. We're going to add the mince. Now I don't throw the mince all in at one go. I like to break the mince up into small pieces, and then it cooks in its strands. If you throw it all in one go, you'll end up with lumps of meat. So that's not a problem. If you do, then you just use the back of your spoon and squash the lumps of mince out. I'm just going to rinse my hands now I've been handling raw meat. Get that stirring in nicely. And once all of the pinkness has gone from your mince, then you can add the dry ingredients. So I'm going to sprinkle that over. So that's got the flour, the cumin, the coriander, the garlic granules in there as well. I'm going to add that in, and that's going to turn all of the juices from the onion and the mince. And it's going to take it nice and thick, and this will allow the flour to start to cook out as well. If you add the flour after you've added the stock, then you'll get a more lumpy and more floury tasting dish, whereas if you cook it like this with the spices and do it dry, what you end up with is a better flavour as it cooks those flavours out into the mince. And then we slowly start to add our stock. Now we're going to add our chopped tomatoes, our kidney beans, our tablespoon of tomato puree, and we're going to turn the heat right down. We don't want to boil this now, we want to simmer it. We're going to mix these in, and we can also now add our peppers. Give it all a good mix. I'll now put the last couple of ingredients in. So that's the mixed herbs, or if you don't want mixed herbs, you can use just oregano. Some mixed herbs, I'm going to put 2 bay leaves in. Good pinch of salt. Good grind of pepper. Teaspoonful of sugar. It just takes the acidity out of the tomatoes. If you don't want to use sugar, I often use tomato ketchup as an alternative. Keep that on a low simmer, and that is going to cook 45 minutes. So come back every 5 minutes or so, give it a stir, make sure it hasn't stuck to the bottom, but for the next 45 minutes that's just going to boil down. All the juices are going to come out of the onions and the peppers, and it's all going to turn into a beautiful chili con carne. While you're doing that, prepare your rice. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Okay, so 45 minutes later, cook the rice, and there we have 3 portions of chili con carne.